Hello and welcome back to another episode of We Are the Podcast, the Rangers podcast by supporters for supporters. It's myself and Charlie and Stevie again. We're going to go over the comings and goings, and preview the Dundee United game that's happening tomorrow. Off the bat, before we do go into the football matters, I think I speak for everybody here that we just want to say a big thank you to everybody that has listened or watched our podcast, liked us, subbed us, all the kind of usual social media nonsense. We're just new to all this kind of stuff ourselves, so we're just trying our best, and we hope that you enjoy the content going forward.
Yeah,
That
I
being
echo
said,
that.
how are you boys? How's it been?
It's been a week
Aye.
supporting Rangers. It's the best way I can put it.
The best thing I heard was somebody said Rangers don't even need to be playing on a Saturday for them to ruin your
Aye,
weekend.
that was
That
Gerard
was
stuff, wasn't
aye. Stevie, you had a
Aye.
wee night on the tiles last night to drown your sorrows, I assume.
I did consumed one too many beverages, feeling it the day, but hopefully things are getting a wee bit more positive for us.
Aye, smashing. So last time we spoke, which was midweek, if I remember rightly, um, Danny Rowe. Danny Rowe was a man. He was all but confirmed. Obviously, the Friday, a week ago at time of recording, Stephen Gerrard, we were getting text messages. Stephen Gerrard's confirmed he'll be unveiled on Monday. Saturday night came and went, and Stephen Gerrard is gone. Come Monday, Danny Rowe is now the man. Then come Wednesday, Stephen Gerrard is back in the running again because of some fluctuation at the bookies. And now, Friday night, we're sitting here, 10 to 8 on a Friday night, and Kevin Muscat is all but confirmed, apparently. What the hell happened last week, guys?
I've
It's
written
been
this in it.
quite the week, as you say. We go for thinking we're getting Gerard back. Everybody, well, the majority of people are very happy with that. To then, was it Saturday night or
Saturday
Sunday
night,
night?
9 o'clock. Saturday night, 9 o'clock. Chris
Saturday
Jack
night.
tweeted out, it's binned, basically.
Aye, the voice of doom, Chris Jack. I'm saying that in jest, obviously, because he is really good at what he does. But and then we go for Danny Rowe, who I'd kind of got to the point of where, aye, this might work.
Acceptance.
Yeah, he actually looks all right, and I don't. I think that came for hearing that the Sheffield Wednesday fans never had a bad word to say about him, and then he pulls out, and I'm sure we'll get into that in a bit more detail, but from my point of view, can you really blame the guy after how long it's been taking in terms of from when he was interviewed to the point of no hearing anything? And obviously, they're not in any kind of bubble. They'll see the press reports the same as we do, in terms of Muscat and stuff like that. But as we said on the very first pod, I'd have been happy with Gerard or Muscat, and Muscat's one of the ones that I've been wanting in since before Clement got the job. So hopefully that gets over the line. But as we've seen over the last 7 days, who knows? A lot can change in a short space of time.
So for you, Cheech, Danny Rowe, what do you think? What do you
Well,
think happened there?
last week, as you end this watch last week's pod, will know that I don't think any of us were too overly enamoured with him. I'm a wee bit like Stevie himself there.
Kind of beat
Where
yourselves into accepting it, kind of thing.
I kind of gotten to the point where, look, I'm not saying the guy's not a good coach. I know I mentioned that I had this kind of a discussion with a Sheffield Wednesday fan last week prior to recording, but I'm not saying the guy isn't a good coach. What I just don't think is that he was the right appointment at the point in time where we are at the moment, because we've just had a guy who's a young guy who is probably more a philosophy manager than Danny Rowe is. But I think at the point where we are as Rangers fans, we can't really afford another guy who isn't obsessed with winning football games, if that makes sense. And I think that what we needed is somebody, and Gerard would have fit that mould, obviously, because we know, as we've been before, that he cares more a lot about winning football games. Obviously, you want to play a certain way, but the bottom line is you need to win games of football.
Aye.
So I think, to a certain extent, Muscat is more in that mould. I know he has got his own style of football, but in any of the videos that I've seen and I've shared, and obviously we've all shared in the group, is that he is obsessed about playing the way his style of football is, but he also wants to win games, and he's very passionate about winning games of football. And I think that had to be the main factor that we looked for in the next guy, because we had And I was like Stevie. When he came up with before with Clement. I was kind of like I probably preferred Clement over Muscat because Clement had won the 2 leagues in Belgium, and look how that turned out. I mean, I wanted him to go at the end just like everybody else did.
We were, me and you specifically, we were like in within the group chats that we've got, we were very loudly anti Clement with about 3 months to go before he left, maybe even longer than that.
I think I just got sick of his excuses. It felt like an excuse machine where it was just every week, and that comes off the back of
kicking
no
the
winning
can
games
down
of
the
football.
road and kick the can down the
Yeah,
road, and
it comes off the back of no winning games of football. He then starts pulling excuses up, and at no point did he say, "Isn't he good enough? This isn't good enough, and we need to be better." It was X and Y players just in the building, judges in so many months, and so on. So I think we needed an appointment this time, or we need an appointment this time because it's not done yet. Who is no about making excuses for why there's shortcomings, but it's about look, it isn't good enough, and we have to work harder to be better.
do you think that looking back on the Danny Roll 2-3 days where it looked like it was going to happen, that he did look like too much of a project manager like Russell Martin, or did they? Because obviously we know that it's Kavanagh and Marath are more involved this time rather than it being the missing men, Thelwell and Stewart. That they maybe saw a lot of the noise being made online. Do you think that the Rangers fans had more of a kind of hand in making it look like Danny Roll was more of a project manager along the lines of Russell Martin than a guy that we wanted, kind of thing?
I think they've got to be smarter than that, to be honest. I think they've got to be smarter. And look, we are making assumptions based on what we are saying for the outside.
Aye.
What they should be making assumptions or making decisions based on is actually speaking to these people in person. That's what they did with Russell Martin, where they made the decision about Russell Martin based on whatever PowerPoint 7 times that he delivered. It was really good.
Aye.
No
His
based on
LinkedIn
what the
profile.
guys, no based on what the guys' history had been. Because if you looked at his history, he'd had one promotion with Southampton where they had a mighty budget compared to most of the other teams, and the rest was finishing mid-table with teams in leagues like League One and stuff. It's not really, it doesn't scream out to you, this guy is the next manager or ready for the next step.
Sure.
I think with Danny Roll, the initial kind of thing, especially for me and reading online, was that you're thinking, oh, here we go, it's just another Russell Martin, but a German Russell Martin, and you're like, I'm not too sure about this. But when you actually delve into it, he was quite adaptable in the systems that he played. He would be happy to play a 4-2-3-1 or a 3-5-2. He would adapt depending on who he was playing. So I think it would be different at Rangers because the majority of teams out with maybe your Celtic, Hearts and Hibs will come to Ibrox, or they'll be at home and they'll just sit in 2 banks of 5. Whereas in the Championship in England, they were one of the kind of lower teams that were expected to be relegated. So he would have to be reactive depending on the opposition. Whereas up here, you don't really need to be reactive in that sense because the majority of teams are going to play the same way in terms of sitting in and trying to frustrate you. So at that point, the ball's in your court to then go and break them down. But I don't think he would be judged probably more on the bigger games. But I think he's not a philosophy manager going by what I was reading and kind of speaking to Sheffield Wednesday fans. So maybe I was just kind of same as Charles. I think we were just kind of beat into submission with, right, we're just going to have to accept this guy. But I mean, it's the same way any manager really, isn't it? Like you were mentioning about Clement and latterly Martin, people were against them, but when they're in the door, you kind of have to get behind them. And that first 3-4 months up until we went to Parkhead under Clement was brilliant. We were beating teams, we
Oh,
were
aye.
beating them well. I mean, we
I
beat
was a
Hibs
big
4
fan of
0.
his. Aye, I was a big fan of him in the
4
beginning.
0 in his first game. We went away to Betis and we were the first team to beat them at home in all competitions. Barca and Real Madrid had been there that season and hadn't left with a victory, and we beat them. And then obviously he wins the League Cup, and you're thinking, right, if we go to Parkhead and do something here, this might be turning a corner. And then obviously we go to Parkhead and lose. But I don't think at that point in time it was anything to be overly worried about, because when you look at that game, at 0-0, we had chances. I remember Ross McCausland going through on goal, and all he had to do was square it to Seamer, and he had a tap in, but he didn't. He went himself. Dessers was through on goal and then just ran it straight into Joe Hart's arms at a time. So, like, there wasn't really anything overly to be worried about then. It wasn't until after the kind of Christmas, New Year period that things started to go. You'd be like, this is a wee bit dodgy. But then the mindset changes that you're having to go, right, well, he needs to have his own players in the door to see how this actually works. And then you get to the summer and he's hamstrung by no having any money. You know, he signed Connor Barron. I can't remember who else. It kind of escapes me. But and I'm kind of going off topic, but it's just to give that example of once they're in the door, you have to get behind them.
Yeah.
But the problem with Russell Martin was we all forget Swansea and MK Dons and Southampton in the Championship. Fresh in the memory was them taking beating after beating in the EPL. And you know there's a big step up for the Championship to the EPL. But look at it this season with the teams that have came up. Leeds, Burnley and Sunderland. They've came up and they've all done reasonably well. You know, they've took
Burnley are
the
sitting
odd.
top 7 or something like that now, aren't they? If
Uh,
I'm not
is it
wrong.
not Sunderland? I think Sunderland are doing well, and the only real beating that you could see being dished out there was Leeds getting beat 5-0 off Arsenal at the Emirates. But that's to be expected when you're coming up against a team that are going to be challenging for the title. So,
Bournemouth, I'm thinking of Bournemouth, sorry.
right, okay,
They're fourth at the minute.
but it's kind of. And then he just kind of comes across as really arrogant in his interviews, doesn't he? He never really kind of. There's nothing there to relate to with the guy, which was really difficult. Hopefully, Muscat's already kind of got some form of credit in the bank because a lot of people want him, and it seems to be a decent style of football he plays. I haven't watched a lot, to be honest. I've watched the odd bit here and there. I watched some of the game of the day, and they do look good. You know, like in terms of the style of playing. That obviously it's different depending on coming to Scotland and things like that. So we'll see how it plays out. But
Yeah.
I'm really excited about this. I have to be honest.
At least when Muscat played with, he was part of a successful team.
Aye.
Won a
When we had
treble.
Russell
Won a
Martin.
treble.
Aye, won
Aye,
a treble.
exactly.
Under McLeish.
Whereas
So-
Russell Martin played for us when we were an absolute bin fire, even
And
worse
still
than we are
wasn't
now.
any use.
No,
Same
no.
way.
Obviously, Danny Rowe aside, Danny Rowe was kind of cut and dry. Looks like he's going to be the manager. He isn't the manager, head coach, whatever you want to call it. The big kind of thing of the past week has been the fluffing of the Gerrard stuff, how quiet the club has been on anything. I know we're not owed any sort of like release or anything like that about potential candidates, but I think someone who the Rangers support hold in such high regard and Steven Gerrard, the board should have maybe have come out and said something. Obviously, I don't think we will ever know the real reason why he never took that. We're only getting told it's the timing. Obviously, Kavanagh and Marath are there. The main speculation is that it's Stilwell and Stewart. He doesn't want to work with them, or they're the problem. Cheech, where in the hell are Thelwell and Stewart?
I put this in as part of the agenda in the group the other day. When we found out that Stephen Smith, right, was taking the team on Saturday by a Twitter post or X post, whatever you call it these days, right? By an X post instead of, we've got a CEO who told us when he was hired that he was taking over the day-to-day running of the club because the owners weren't doing it. We hired Thelwell, who is, I think his role as a technical director, not the director of football. I think that's Dan Purdy. Technical director, whose also job is hands-on day-to-day in the club. He was the person who came out and went to bat for Russell Martin in the last international break.
Essentially, so the 49ers don't need to get involved in
So
anything.
the two of them have posted missing completely. They haven't been seen since
This is
Genk. Did we
Falkirk.
leave them in Belgium? Because
Gone further back, cool.
that was the last time they were seen, was that video that was circulating online, was them getting pelters. And what I said this to you guys the other day.
That's right, yeah.
I said this to you guys the other day, right? I wouldn't be surprised if, no, if there's a decision like that being made, any update like that, and it's not coming for the owners, it should be coming for the CEO, right? I think he's in such bad shakes with the Rangers fans now that I wouldn't be surprised if in the background he's negotiating his way out, and that's why he's not been anywhere near this. Because I reckon it's I heard in another podcast the other day, I think it may have been Heart and Hand, that he looks like somebody who's got half the bus in the rank stop. I think that's honestly the best way I've heard it put, is that he looks like he's got off the bus and went, "What am I doing here? This isn't where I was wanting to go." Or
Is
where
this
I'm
Parkhead?
Aye, it genuinely looks like somebody who's gotten off the bus at the rank stop, and I think that's the most perfect way I think I've heard it put. Is that he's got in here, he's thought again the same way that we were saying about the way Thelwell and Martin maybe looked at it where they thought it'll be a scoosh up here. He's came here and thought, oh, this will be an easy job.
Coming
He's
from
put
Man
his foot
United,
wrong a few
thinks
times
he's
already, and now he's at I think with Stevie at 4 lads, had said he's at 3 strikes already now. So I think he's genuinely. I wouldn't be surprised if after all this dies down with the manager stuff, he kind of out the door a wee bit,
slinks
out
out the back gate, maybe.
For me, I wouldn't be surprised at that.
It's crazy, and obviously, I don't think that these guys don't see all the online chatter and all the discussion boards and what have you, follow and what have you, talking about them and talking about Cavan and Marath and obviously the people in and around Thelwell and Stewart. You would think that somebody would say to them, like, poke your head up for a wee minute, like, just say
That's
something.
why we hire a press officer, mate.
Aye, like, what are you? Why are you got? Why have they gone into hiding so badly? Are they that embarrassed about the job that they've done that they're scared to show their face? A simple post, like, see, like the one that you were saying on the last pod, Stevie, about when Patrick Stewart came out and condemned the tifo and all that at Celtic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just something like that. Just a press conference, just a press release saying we're busy in the background. We'll have an update later. It's been radio silence.
Well, we know they're no busy because we've already been told that they're nothing to do with this managerial search.
Aye,
So what are they doing?
that's what I mean, though. You've got another job. You have a job to do. Tell us what's going on. Like, they came in a precedent of we're going to give you information. We're going to be as transparent as possible, and they're not.
I've heard that rumour that Kevin Thelwell is currently interviewing his extended family for Patrick Stewart's replacement, but I'm not sure yet.
Aye, Granny Stewart, Granny Thelwell, and Stewart's hot seat or something like that, probably.
It just beggars belief. Like, I mean, these two guys are supposed to be running the day to day, and we've not heard anything from Kevin Thelwell since he was waxing lyrical about how good a coach Russell Martin was 6 weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? It's absolutely mental. Like, look, if you've messed up, which obviously they clearly have by appointing the guy in the first place, own it. Do you know what I mean? It shouldn't take a letter for Andrew Kavanagh and Parag Marath to come out and go, look, we got the decision wrong. Well, did you really get the decision wrong? Because it was the other two that were working on it. Aye, you've had to sign off on it, but surely it was they two that kind of done the hunting in the first place. Do you know what I mean? And I think it was very telling in the letter that they released, saying that we'll be leading the search. You know, and look, as much as there's faults there for how long this is taking and how public it's been, that I think that's the big issue. They've not been able to keep any of this in house. It's been public knowledge about who we've been going after. Then they've said no. Do you know what I mean? Like, gone are the days of just being able to go, right, we'll interview X amount of managers and we'll pick the best one and nobody will know until they're picked. Whereas all these guys, like Danny Rowe and all the rest of it, know we're in for other managers. Do you know? So you have to kind of think, how would they be feeling when all this is going on? Do you know what I mean? I don't, like I said earlier, I don't blame Danny Rowe for knocking us back, because to me this process is taking far longer than it should have done. There's no way we should have sacked a manager a fortnight ago and still be going through an international break and going, we still need a manager. We're going to have to put an academy coach in the dugout for the next game. It's absolutely wild.
Is it not supposed to be a thing for a club the size of Rangers to have a succession plan in place?
That they did say this at the fan advisory board meetings, at the fan advisory board. So somebody actually posted this on Twitter and forgive me or X and forgive me to whoever it was. I can't remember who it was, but I seen it. So they basically said it was an excerpt of the statement saying that they had a plan B. So he said, "So were they lying then
Well,
Aye.
when they
look,
made that
for,
comment?"
for all his faults, and he got berated for it. You can't have a go for when Ross Wilson was here, because when Gerrard left, Gio was in quickly. When Gio left, Clement was in quickly. So sorry,
He,
it was Bale after that, and then Clement. Apologies, but they were very
he was in
quick.
before Gio was away.
Aye, but they were very, very quick kind of turnarounds, whereas this has just dragged on and on and on and on. And it's not ideal. And look, it's not an ideal situation with Muscat as well, where you're potentially going to have to wait until November to get him in because you're going to miss some big games. I mean, we could in theory be out of Europe by then. We could be knocked out of the League Cup by then.
The
And
league could be gone by then as well.
none of this would be Stephen Smith's fault because he's been put there and he can only do what's asked of him. Do you know what I mean? So you can't my worry tomorrow is if we go a goal down or we're trailing at half time and the crowd turn because you know what our fans are like. They're not very forgiving at the best of times. It's not you just don't want them turning on him because it's no his fault at the end of the day. He's been put in a very awkward position. And I thought I know we'll go on and talk about his presser later, but I think today he handled that really well and the way he answered the questions was really, really good.
Well, that's a brilliant segue into the next point on the agenda, Stephen. Well done. You're getting good at this, mate.
Three
You're getting good
episodes
at
in, and I'm
this.
getting there.
So obviously, Kevin Muscat appears to be 99.9% done. There is widely been reported caveats to him coming here. Obviously, he's still in situ in China. Shanghai Port, is that the name of the team he's at? Shanghai Port. I only found out today while I was walking the dog listening to another podcast that apparently they're owned by the Chinese government, which is what's making this protracted thing a lot harder to deal with because we're having to negotiate with the actual Chinese government. But apparently he is done. We're going to get an announcement probably, I would imagine, Monday. And the supposed plan in place is that Neil McCann's going to take control of the team because he's going to be number 2. He's going to take control of the team until Kevin Muscat is free to come to Scotland. What do you guys think about that?
To be honest, I think that it's no ideal, right? I don't think you can say it's ideal because we're having to wait a couple of weeks. I think when the way they've came for it, they've went pretty much. If we want it to be 100% sure that this is the right guy, and we have to wait a couple of weeks for it, then they're willing to just wait a couple of weeks and just do it. I think it's probably slightly softens the blow if you look at it from a point of view where if Neil McCann's going to be an assistant manager or his assistant manager, if he's going to have more than one, I don't know what his coaching setup's like. I know he uses a guy, Ross Aloisi, I think the guy's name is, who follows him about to different clubs. So I don't know what role he plays in that. But I don't know if there's an element of them going, well, look, it's not quite as bad if he can have regular contact to Muscat. In the meantime, they can start implementing what they're wanting to do for here. And then they're kind of off and running a wee bit with that same mentality by the time he actually takes up the role like properly.
Aye. So the date that I heard on a number of podcasts is the 22nd of November that he's going to be free because that's when the Chinese league finishes or something like that, or when his contract runs out.
I think I seen something about there being a couple of games and then there's a 2-week break or something like that before the last game or something being in the 22nd of November or something along the lines anyway.
But essentially there's only like 2 points in it or something like that.
2 points with 3 games to go now, I think.
Aye, so they could essentially win it within the next kind of couple of weeks or so. So we might get him a wee bit sooner than that if Kevin Muscat is the guy that we're getting. Obviously, it does look like that. Fingers crossed, nothing else happens. No 11th hour pullouts like Stevie Gerrard.
I don't think so. To be honest, I think he's wanted this job He's been
Aye.
in this. We've heard his name a few, probably the last 3
For about
times.
3 or 4 years now, he's been in and
Aye,
around
I
this
think
job.
I think he's seen this job. I know he tried Belgium before, and it wasn't a great team, and it didn't go like brilliantly well for him. But I think this is a job where he sees it going. Really, normally it's a 2-horse race up here.
Yeah.
So he goes in. He thinks this is a real easy chance to go and have the same effect that Postecoglou would have had over the road. You know what I mean? Came in and totally bossed it because his style of football was. I'm saying quite similar because they did work together. I believe he was
Aye.
his assistant manager. So I think we know that
Melbourne
that
Victory
style
or
of
something like that, wasn't
football. If the style of football is similar, we know that that works well over here. Maybe
it?
doesn't
Yeah.
work as well in Europe, right enough, but we know it works well domestically anyway. So I
Aye.
think there's like they're mitigating a small bit of the risk with that, which is why I think if they're thinking this is, to be honest, they'll never admit this, right? But I think there's a certain element where they've gone, look, we
We
can
need a popular
probably
one.
write this season off. Really,
Aye.
I know they would never ever do that, right? You shouldn't really do it, right? Because you know there's like we've got X amount of games left to play, and it's only October and all the rest of it, right?
It's
But
only done when it's mathematically done.
aye, but I think they've went to a certain extent of we're at this point 9, 11 points behind the top 2 teams. We would need them to lose 4 games each while we win every single game,
Aye.
or drop X amount of points along the way, right? Where we win every single game and don't drop a lot of points, which is a big ask to do now. You can with the start we've had, right? If you spread the results out over a season, you can win a league like that, right? You can't start a league like that because what happens is you then give yourself no room for error for the rest of the what are we 6 games in now, something like that.
The percentage factor in it, it's like we've
You
lost
then go
so much percentage
small
of games.
portions. Yeah, you've let all your good results go, or your bad results go, sorry. And you're 7 games in we are. So you've got 31 games. Or is it 36 we play here? I can't remember.
And it's not even like the losses that we've had or the points that we've dropped have been at any of the teams that we should be dropping
Nope.
points
If
to, kind
anything,
of thing.
if anything, you could argue that the start of the season they had was actually quite favourable, to be
Aye.
honest. They're coming
100%.
up against Falkirk,
Motherwell.
Dundee, Motherwell. I mean, Hearts would have been a tough game normally anyway, even despite how well they've started the season. That would be a tough game anyway. But their first 2 league games, they were winnable games. Beating Dundee, beating Motherwell, beating
Aye.
flipping.
But that's what I said to you at the beginning when Russell Martin was first appointed. Obviously, I was against Russell Martin for the get-go, but the one thing that I did say, and I said it to everybody that I spoke to, was come the first Celtic game of the season, if he's on maximum points from all the games prior to that, then he's had a good crack at it, and that's what he needed to do. And turns out that he could take the minimum amount of points possible going into that game.
Barely. I mean, the one win against Livingston was pathetic.
Aye.
Taking that absolute. We talked about it a couple of pods ago. I don't know if it was the first pod or last week, or through the week there. Aye, last week. It was a pathetic scramble for a corner at the end of the game.
Yeah.
It was throwing everything. There's that meme that was going about random shit go. That's what it
Aye.
was. He was just throwing everything at it, and just
Aye.
sometimes that'll pay off because you create so much chaos that you'll get that last minute winner, right, or the last minute equaliser. But it doesn't work for you every single time. Just like we've seen with the one each game that we had there before the break, with Falkirk.
Aye.
You throw it all, and it's that sometimes you can't rely on that. You need to be better in the game leading up to that, and the same rule applies to the season. You're 7 games in. You've then used up all your good grace that you would have with the results. You then need to go on a run of beating everybody, including the other teams, in order to claw back some points, which becomes a bigger ask, especially with the way the morale is with the team and the way you start the season, the momentum you've got.
So that being said, then Kevin Muscat, obviously, when he does come in, if he does come in, do you think he gets a bit of leeway?
Aye, Stevie was talking about Stevie Smith. By the way, for the audio listeners, we lost Stevie just because he had something to take care of in the house. Just in case you wonder why he's no.
Good point. I should have said that. Actually, I forgot about.
Right.
I forgot about the audio, boys. I'm sorry.
Aye, just for him to watching the video, notice he's gone. But aye, the audio listeners, we lost him about 5 minutes ago. But I think nobody's going to blame Stevie Smith. I don't think this weekend. If we don't get a result tomorrow, then it's going to be solely on the players, to be honest with you. It's not going to be about Stevie Smith. That guy is just somebody who works for the club who's been asked to do a job, who any is in that situation would probably say, aye, I would do it. He's been the guy I did listen to a wee bit. It was said in the press conference, and he did say, look, he's been coaching for 10, 12 years now. So it's not like he's just a guy who makes the tea in
Does
the
he put the
office.
coins
Do you know
out
what I
like
mean?
Beale did?
So he has got some coaching experience behind him anyway. He's done his badges and stuff. So it's not as if it's just some random guy. But I don't think MD will blame him. Just like I don't think for this season, I think enough of the fans have probably written off the season, whether they want to admit it or no, that we would take some good results and seeing something for this team, for the
A wee
style of
cup win or
football
something like
under
that, maybe.
Muscat, that under Muscat, I don't know why I call him Muscat, that we would see like something to get behind. Like
Yeah,
people have said it all along the whole time with Russell Martin, right? Right, if we can see what he's trying to do, we wouldn't be so hard on the guy. The problem why
100%.
we're being so hard on the guy is because the results weren't there, even though we only see the outcome, remember? And we couldn't see what we were trying to do.
Mm,
That's why the comments came up about the team don't look coached and all the rest of it, is because
yeah,
as fans aren't going to know as much as coaches don't, right? But we know when we're watching a football game and we know what
aye,
we're watching. And you know you're watching the team playing a certain way and all the rest of it. So to a certain extent, we need to see something for the team under this style of football in order to believe in something going into next season. I think it's a case of if you get a good run and you have a good January, maybe, because we're probably going to need a couple of players in January
that
at
was
this
going to be
point.
my next question. Do you think Muscat gets anything for January? I reckon there's a good enough team there already. I think it was just Russell Martin's rigid,
That
unflinching tactics.
aye, I think everything that he does, right, and it sounds like I'm assassinating the guy's character, right? I don't know him personally, but by going by my interpretation of how his the way he spoke, his tone and stuff like that, way when he's been pressed, he's total micromanager,
Aye,
and he likes to micromanage every minutia of what his team are doing to the point where there was somebody saying something about the game hadn't even kicked off against Falkirk and he's shouting at a player to get move positions before the kickoff even. Do you know what I mean? I'm like,
aye.
why are you changing? Why are you telling somebody to stand in a certain place for the
Two
fucking
inches to the
kickoff of
left or whatever.
a game
Like,
of football? Do you know what I mean?
aye,
Like, so he's micromanaging everything to the point of where they're standing when the game kicks off. If it's, and I'm not saying it's a striker that's standing back in this 18-yard box. It's I can't remember who it was, but it's a defender or a midfielder who's
probably Raskin.
maybe exactly where he was. So I think he's just that type of person who probably overcoached everything
Aye,
because he probably believed a wee bit of his own nonsense, to be
hyperbole. Aye, a
honest.
wee bit. He believed in his own hype, his own nonsense kind
I
of thing.
believed in his own this whole thing that we're talking about, where it's the death of um, philosophy coaches, is because he is a really good, bad, whatever way you look at it, poster boy for the death of the philosophy coaches, because you can use all the buzzwords you want, you can use all the stuff that
Or the
you would
stats, or a
hear in the podcasts about mentality and all that stuff.
yep.
Turn up and you can't win games of football. It doesn't matter what you talk about.
That's where I think that Kevin Muscat's going to be a good fit for us. Without being too crass, I always say to you, Cheech, I love a bastard manager.
Hmm? We
I
talked
love
about it a couple of weeks ago.
I love a manager that is animated, shouts at the players when they're playing. Isn't he looking at an iPad when things go wrong? All that kind of stuff. And I get the feeling that Kevin Muscat's going to be exactly like that. I think Kevin Muscat's going to be a proper gritty, like two fitter, not to put too fine a point on it, but
I
I
know,
reckon
metaphorically speaking.
I think that he's not going to hold back if he thinks that somebody's not doing what they should be doing, or he's not going to go too deep into what they're doing incorrectly and all that. But I think that he's just going to be the type of person that will be this is what I want you to do. This is what you're doing. Let's meet in the middle.
Aye.
And this is how I
I
think
agree
he
with
could
you.
be better.
He's going to be an element of he does like his teams to play a certain way. You watch any video on him on YouTube or whatever, any clips of him, he wants him talking about attackers appreciating the ball and respecting the ball and working hard to win the ball back and don't think that they've got no defending to do when they don't have the ball. That was a specific clip I seen. He's like, you've got a responsibility to look after the ball, just like the defenders have got a responsibility to look after the ball, the midfielders as well. So he's very big on that. I think he does have his own philosophy, but at the same time as you, I think he's not the type of guy who's going to come out in a press conference after a bad result and tell you that the we had X amount of shots on target and all that.
Aye.
I think he'd be more the type of person, and I think that's what was missing as well for probably the last couple of guys. Is like nobody's come out and going, that isn't good enough for this club. Isn't good
Aye.
enough to play for this club. You want to play for this club. You want the adulation, 50,000 fans every second week watching your games, singing your name, and all the rest of it. You need to be winning games of football. And that's
Aye.
at the end of it. He played under it, and so he should understand it better. So should Russell Martin have, right enough. But
Who was the manager when we had Muscat?
McLeish,
McLeish was a winning manager. He'll know what it's like.
Yep.
Like,
he won a treble when McLeish was the
aye.
manager. And
I can.
McLeish was in the press the other day. I can't remember what outlet it was. Might be a few of them where he was saying that Muskie will be perfect for the role.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was listening to one of the other podcasts. I think it was last night or the night before. I can't remember which one it was. And one of them mentioned that Ange Postecoglou had been interviewed about Muscat in the past
Yeah.
couple of days, and he said that if we do get him, then Celtic really need to up their game because he's going to be amazing for us.
Oh,
But
he's
not
going to say
he,
that.
ne- he, ne-
It's
he
his
never
pal,
he
isn't
never
it? But
he never name checked Celtic. He said their rivals are going to have to up their game. But if you're getting somebody like Ange who's has been successful up
he
here,
knows that the league. He knows the league
he's
well
won
enough
he's
to
won
know.
he's won a European trophy with Tottenham. I don't care what anybody thinks. Ange is a good manager as far as I'm concerned. Not right now, obviously, but I think Ange is a good manager. And if
I think he's,
Muscat is like him in any way, I think he's going to be successful.
my my opinion on that would be, and I don't want to belittle the league, but basically the two teams he's went to. I mean, listen, I'm not saying Nottingham Forest are a brilliant team either, but I think to a certain extent, his style works in a league where there's two teams really, and we were pretty much garbage at that
That's
time.
fair.
I'm not saying that had we been brilliant or on par, they wouldn't have still won the league. I'm not getting at that. I'm not trying to say that they only won the league because we were poor, but I think that his larger body of work now is. I say it's no larger times, but he's been at two clubs since that, and it's not gone well. And it's the same criticisms that were there when Celtic played in Europe, is that he didn't change anything. That's just the way they played. And despite whether they got gubbins or no, they just played that way. So I don't think it takes Pep Guardiola or Mourinho to win the league here, but it takes somebody better than Russell Martin. Let's be honest. We know that for sure anyway.
I think we're getting that with Muscat. I'm excited by Muscat. Like, I haven't previously, when his name was in and around the club, I was obviously only knew him as an ex player of ours. I haven't been. I was never excited about him being spoke about as being our manager prior to this one. But this time, coming off of the back of what we've experienced this season, and then the highs of Steven Gerrard being all but confirmed, to then Danny Rowe being the one that was going to be confirmed, I'm excited for Kevin Muscat, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he gets out of the team currently that we've got, and possibly what he might bring to the team with a transfer window if we do in fact give him any money. But come Saturday, it's back to league business, and I'm so happy because I cannot stand, as you know, international football bowls me to tears. Especially the Scotland national team, even though they won both their games, but I still wouldn't watch them if they were playing in my back garden. Tomorrow at 3:00 at Ibrox, packed house because everybody was anticipating the return of Steven Gerrard, I think. We're hosting Dundee United, who currently sit fourth in the Premier League, in the Premiership, sorry. on 9 points. We're only a point behind them, but we are obviously 4 places below them. Obviously, with other results round about us, we could probably jump up a couple of spaces. I don't think we're going to jump to 4th or 3rd if we win.
Might be top 6 though.
Could be, could be. In his press of the day, Stevie Smith spoke very well. You'd think he'd been in the job for about 5 years at this point. I only listened to the first half of it because I was walking the dog at the time, but I was very impressed. He handled the questions. The questions were not your typical kind of questions that would have been asked of a manager within the past 3 or 4 months. They were very by the numbers media questions. He did say he's not looking to complicate things. He's trying to keep it simple, which the way that he answered the question kind of made me think that he's of the belief that things have been a little bit too complicated in the last couple of months. He specifically said that he's not asked the players how they want to train because you can't give these players an inch or they'll take a mile, which I don't really know how how to take that. That's paraphrasing, obviously didn't say that exactly, but he said that he's not allowing them to train how they want to train. He's choosing how they train. Because obviously he's with the under 19s and stuff like that, who had been training the exact same way as Russell Martin's first team were training. So I'm hoping that with a couple of days underneath Stevie's tutelage, we might have got rid of some of the Russell Martin poison, if you will. He did mention that Diamandi's out. I didn't know that Diamandi was injured, but apparently Diamandi's out. Dowell's still out, thank God. And Dujon Sterling is apparently on his road back. As I'd heard last week, apparently, that he was close to coming back.
He's back training, I think.
I miss Big Sterling. I'm a big fan of Big Dujon. The utility man can play wherever he wants, kind of thing. What do you think for tomorrow's game, Cheech? What would you like to see? What would you like to see?
Personally, obviously, I want us to get winning 3 points. Obviously, right. I think it's like Dundee United have obviously started the season relatively well, considering they're 4th in the league. So I think we should be looking at trying to. If these players have got anything about them, they should be wanting to win this game.
This is an audition for them again, an audition for them for the new manager. Every game that he's not here, they should be putting on their best performance to cement their place in that team when he does get here.
Aye, if nothing else, and I'm not saying they all want to say that Russell Martin was a problem, right? But if nothing else, if any of them believe that his tactics were the problem, then tomorrow should be night and day. Aye. Because a lot of that stress and that pressure should be relieved for them, and they should be playing more out with themselves, no within themselves, because they shouldn't be thinking, if I don't pass the ball back the way to this guy or whatever, then I'm going to
lose my place next
the byline about how, you're not following my instructions and all the rest of it, right? So I reckon that we need to see a better performance out of this team. I agree with what you said earlier on. This team is better than they have been performing, right? Because look at these players that we brought in.
Fellow Asgard is a big one that's sitting at the forefront of my brain now. He scored 4 goals in 1 game in an international game, albeit it was against a minnow team. And then I think he scored last week as well. Come off the bench and scored last week.
I can't remember, mate, to be honest.
But I think him and Ant-Man are going to be the two that we need to see a performance out of.
Yeah. I think to a certain extent as well, when we signed Asgard, I'd seen loads of Luton fans talking about how good he was and all the rest of it as well. So, and that's happened to a lot of the players we've signed. Ant-Man's got the numbers for the Eredivisie last year as well that we've seen briefly in the Pilsen game, and then that was coached out of him.
Yep.
With Gazama, we've seen he's got flashes of really good stuff on him. Interesting to note that from your Sheffield Wednesday fans, Gazama played mostly or sometimes on the right as well. I know he's right-footed, but
I don't know.
That was under Danny Rowe.
We played him in the right a couple of times and put Mikey Moore on the left. Like, I know that was Russell Martin masterclass, but that made no sense to me at the time for the 2 or 3 games.
Thing as well, like Raskin goes and plays for every time he plays for Belgium.
They wax lyrical. They love
can't
him,
follow him anymore than possible because they're talking about how great he is, and he's coming back. To be fair, he made some comments. It's a free hit for him in it because he's coming back here now after somebody that well publicised that he didn't get on really well with. He's talking about he needs to feel the love off the new manager and stuff like that. So quite clearly there was issues with their relationship. But also he's coming back saying that the fans backed me and they were singing my name and all that and all that. So I feel like I owe them something as well. They'll sign another contract then, is what I'd be saying to him first and foremost. But we need this team, if they've got anything about them personally, as professional athletes on the kind of money that they're on, and as good as they should be or would like to think that they are, then we should be seeing a better performance out of them tomorrow than we've seen so far this season.
Obviously, we're rid of Russell, so I would assume that the support are going to be again behind the team 100%. Obviously, towards the end, there was booing, there was chanting, there was even when we scored goals, there was Martin, go to France. Now, do you reckon that even if we don't perform tomorrow, that the Ibrox faithful stay faithful, or do they turn on the team?
I think there's still boos, to be honest with you, but I think it's directed at the team. I think most of it was directed at Martin towards the end.
Yep.
Probably. I don't think you can say. I think you can safely say that it definitely was directed towards Martin, evidenced obviously what you're saying about we score a goal and they still Martin get to F. Do you know what I mean? That's just after we score a winner. So like we hated them as a collective, as a fan base. He was hated
at
the end. And it probably I don't know if we mentioned this in the previous pod, it shouldn't have been allowed to go that far, right? But it was. But I think to a certain extent now, you've got the players need to shoulder any blame now. So if they want us to believe that it wasn't them and it was the manager, then they need to see a result tomorrow then.
Agreed.
And they should, if there's all this stress and what was it he said?
Anxiety.
If this was all because of the way they'd been coached, then that should be totally lifted and they should be playing with a freedom that you would expect of somebody who's just had a weight taken off their shoulders. If that was the scenario.
There's a couple of players that I can see talking about playing with freedom there. There's a couple of players who gave us flashes of if they were allowed to do what they want to do, they could probably give us something special. Your Ant-Man, Gassama, fellow Asgard. Finlay Curtis, does he come in out the cold? Raskin. There's been a lot of talk about Enciala as well.
I mean, to a certain point, Rothwell as well, because it was mentioned by Stuart Dallas, I think, had mentioned on a podcast, and it was on Twitter because Joe Rothwell had liked the post about it.
Yeah, playing him out of position.
He doesn't understand why he's not playing him further forward because that's what his best position is, and Joe Rothwell's liked it. So I know there's
even his boys are turning against him.
So deeply into this, but what I'm saying is that it almost looks like an endorsement from that is my preferred place on the field, on the pitch, is to be further forward, and then you have Raskin who plays better, is lower, sitting deeper, like as a pivot, or
pulling
maybe
strings
out to the right a wee bit. So
Raskin was like at the end of last season, we were all banging the drum, make Raskin the captain.
Brilliant, aye.
He was future captain.
100%. Like, no offence to Tav or whatever, but if this is going to be his last season, you probably what we should have done.
Muscat wants his own captain.
Probably what we should have done was had Raskin sign a new contract and be made the captain before this season.
Aye.
But then again, you probably can't do that because you don't know how well they're going to get on with the new manager and whatnot. And Russell Martin came in knowing Tav personally, didn't he, from played with him. So he's probably not going to make that decision.
He probably saw Tav as maybe as an ally in the dressing room and stuff like that.
You can do it in football. How many times does this happen in football where somebody gets made the club captain in order to take away the shine for them getting removed the armband and it going to somebody else because it's succession planning, because this is going to be Tav's last season. He's going to be off, going to have his testimonial and he's going to ride off into the sunset.
Chelsea was a big one. John Terry and Gary Cahill. That was a big thing.
You make somebody, and I know there'll be an element of the person that will feel undermined, but it also allows that grace period between the guy who's the new captain, maybe leaning on the guy who was the captain for so long, with certain things that he's not sure about how he should conduct himself, and he almost plays that kind of background role
Aye.
for there.
So I think for the game tomorrow, I want to see an attacking team. Like I want to see. I know
Tactical
obviously.
goals.
I know obviously we've been playing this midfield that seems to be set up more defensively than anything else. But we're at Ibrox, the fans should be rejuvenated because we're now no longer under the dark spectre that is Russell Martin. I want to see. I want to see 4-4-2, man. I want to see Brexit. I want to see Brexit, bro. I
I just
want.
want to see us playing on the front foot like we were told it would be in the summer. I
Give
want
me
to see us
Miovski and Danilo up front together.
getting
That's
in
what I
players'
want.
faces. Well, Tromiti scored for Portugal off the bench the other day.
I'm thinking that Miovski and Cherbuti are two big, kind of burly guys. Danilo's your wee wiry, kind of. It's Nacho Novo and Dado Purzo kind of idea. You know what I mean?
Big
Like,
man, wee man.
aye.
I don't know enough about Muscat's tactics and stuff to know how he likes, what kind of players he likes in every position. To be honest with you, there's
Yep.
probably no that kind of tactical analysis that we have access to from, like, obviously the Chinese league kind of thing.
Yep.
But it would be interesting to know what kind of players and what kind of role. We know the basics. He likes the high pressing. He likes players to get into the opposition's face. The vertical. I did notice a few comments on that game the day that was on YouTube
Mm-hmm.
that there was a lot more vertical balls, so a lot more balls trying to get up the pitch quicker than we had seen before, because we were a lot of horizontal side to side, passing it back to
For
the
sure.
goalkeeper, and whereas there's a lot more vertical balls in his style of play, or so it would appear anyway, going by
Mm-hmm.
what evidence we have so far, which is very small. But I would kind of be more interested to have a deep dive into what kind of players he likes and what kind of roles. In terms of, like, for instance, a striker, does he prefer a striker that's got a higher work rate, or somebody like Miovski, who is really a poacher, if you look
Aye.
at it? He is the guy who you want in and around the 9 spot, in and around the penalty area, and you get balls into him, and hopefully he can tuck them away. That
I
was a big
reckon.
problem I had when we had Dessers, was is that there was, how many balls did we have flashed across the box, and
How
he
many
wasn't in the
times?
box?
How many times in chats and stuff like that did we say he's trying to play him like Morelos, or the way that Morelos would drop back to pick up the ball from midfield? But the difference between every striker that we've used since Morelos is that Morelos could do that, and none of them
Morelos
else.
was a midfielder when we signed him.
I mean, nobody else could do that. Nobody else could do it the way that we Alfredo could do that. I I was a big kind of, I need Miovski to sign for us. Even when he played for Aberdeen,
I remember.
I wanted him for Aberdeen, but he is very much a stick him in the 18-yard box and he will put it away. I know obviously he's had a horrendous miss within the last kind of month or two, but I reckon that if we can get him in there and we can start playing football the way that this team can
And
possibly
working
play
the ball into
football,
the box, yeah.
the chances are going to come, because that's been the biggest issue. Like looking at the league table just now, right? We've scored 6 goals. That's the third lowest amount of goals.
Have we not got a negative goal difference now?
-1 goal difference.
Yeah.
-1. And we're coming up against Dundee United, who are a +1 goal difference. They've scored double the amount of goals that we've scored, albeit they have conceded 11. They've scored 12 goals this season.
But
I
we're
couldn't
getting
tell. I
told,
couldn't tell you their strikers. I don't know who their
but we're
strikers are.
getting told it's all right because we've got the second highest shots in the league. You can have second highest shots if you want. See if the shots are never going to go in, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think, that having our big target striker, poacher, Ali McCoist reincarnated, stunning on the penalty spot, just whenever a ball comes into that box, he's fighting to put it in the goal. I reckon that if we do that, if we play like that, if we play to the strengths of the players that we've got, Miovski could easily get 20 goals this season, 25 at a push.
Well, he's shown that he can score goals for Aberdeen, so we, in theory, should be a better team, creating better chances in games and more chances in games, because we should be playing in the front foot. We should have all the ball. We should be the team that are breaking
Especially at
teams
Ibrox.
down.
And I
But we'll
think
see.
that starts tomorrow. I am confident. I'm confident.
What would be brilliant if we could manage to get a good win, maybe 2-3-0,
Yep.
2-3-1 even, or maybe 3-1 or something, 2-3-0 or 3-1
The
or
defence is
something
still
like
too
that.
shaky for a clean sheet, I think, mate.
It depends if it was tactical or whether, I mean,
True.
I don't think John Souttar's covered himself in glory this season at all. To be honest with you, I would be trying Cornelius and Jiga, to be honest with you, if it was me. But I think John Souttar's had a good few howlers this season. Too many to be kept in that team, if you ask me. But
Yep.
I reckon that if we could get a good win tomorrow, and then you look at start of next week, Muscat's announced, and then we're announcing that Neil McCann's coming in the now, who will stay on for the continual period after that, but he's going to be in contact with Muscat while he finishes the season over there, and we've got somebody going right, getting fed off the new manager and putting that into the works already. Then we've had a win, and when we're continuing into Thursday night, we're continuing into the next following weekend as well.
Yep.
Absolutely no later than Monday, because we've got a game on Thursday that's a must-win game for that Europa League.
This has been a thing, though, hasn't it? Like, too many times have we said this is a point in time that we need to hear something by, and that time comes and goes. Like, Russell should have been, Martin should have been sacked by this point. Martin should have been sacked by that point. Martin gets sacked. We should have a manager announced by Wednesday that week. He gets sacked on the Sunday. He should be announced by the Wednesday. Right? Okay, it's taking a wee bit longer. We need to know by Friday. Friday comes. Steven Gerrard's going to be your manager. Right? Needs to be announced by Monday. Monday comes and goes. Saturday night, Gerrard's off ski. It's just one continuous. We need to know, and no finding anything out. So I think now would be a good point for if Thelwell and Stewart are going to be hanging around after all this is said and done, if they're going to be the people that are going to be running the club for Kavanagh and Marathi, that they start being transparent with us.
Present as well.
Aye. And I think that's where we'll leave it for today's episode. Cheech, your final prediction for the Dundee United game tomorrow?
Oh. Normally I would go with a nice 2-0 or something like that, right? But I'll go 2-0. Do you know, I reckon we'll see a bit of a lift for them if it's on the caveat that the problem was Russell Martin. I think we'll see a bit of a lift and maybe a bit more freedom in the way the team plays, hopefully, and we'll see them playing a wee bit more better than they have been anyway.
So what was that? 2-1 you said there?
2-0. No, I'm
2-0.
going for
2-0. I'm going to go for the 4-0 spanking. Here we go.
statement, Cotton.
Won the Rangers. We'll see you later.
Cheers, guys.